Once upon a time, in a lush green forest, there lived a little bird named Kiri. Kiri was small, with bright blue feathers and a cheerful voice. She loved flying through the trees, chirping songs and playing with her friends, but Kiri had one big fear: she was afraid of the dark. Every evening, as the sun began to set, Kiri would hurry back to her nest. She would hide under the soft leaves and close her eyes, not daring to look at the growing shadows. While her friends sang in the trees or played in the cool evening breeze, Kiri stayed in her nest, shivering with fear. One day, the animals of the forest gathered for a big celebration. It was the annual Forest Festival, a day when all the creatures came together to share food, dance, and enjoy each other's company. Everyone was excited, and Kiri was no different. She was especially excited because her best friend, a squirrel named Nutty, had promised to show her the most beautiful part of the forest, the Silver Lake. "Kiri, you have to see it," Nutty said, jumping up and down. "The Silver Lake looks amazing when the moonlight reflects on the water. It's the most magical sight in the forest." Kiri hesitated. She knew that to get to the Silver Lake, they would have to fly through the dark part of the forest. The thought of the darkness made her anxious, but she didn't want to disappoint Nutty. "Okay, I'll go with you," Kiri said, her voice a little shaky. "But I'm still afraid of the dark." Nutty smiled brightly. "Don't worry, Kiri. I'll be with you the whole time. We'll go together, and I'll make sure nothing happens. Double quotes. So, as the sun began to set, Kiri and Nutty set off on their journey to the Silver Lake. The forest was beautiful as they flew through it. The trees were tall and green, the flowers were blooming, and the air smelled sweet. Kiri felt a little better with Nutty by her side. But as they got closer to the Silver Lake, the forest became darker. The trees grew thicker and the shadows seemed to grow longer. Kiri's heart began to race, and her wings felt heavier. "Don't worry, Kiri," Nutty said, noticing her fear. "We're almost there, just a little further." Kiri nodded, trying to stay calm. She looked at Nutty, who was flying confidently beside her, and reminded herself that she wasn't alone. Finally, they reached the Silver Lake. The moon was rising in the sky, and its silver light reflected on the still water. It was even more beautiful than Kiri had imagined. The lake shimmered like a mirror, and the moonlight danced across the surface in gentle waves. "This is incredible," Kiri exclaimed. She forgot her fear for a moment as she gazed at the magical sight before her. But just then a gust of wind blew, and the trees around them began to creak and groan. The dark forest seemed to whisper with strange sounds, and Kiri's fear returned. She fluttered her wings nervously and looked around. "It's just the wind," Nutty said, trying to reassure her. "There's nothing to be afraid of." Double quotes. But Kiri couldn't help it. The shadows in the forest seemed to stretch out, and the dark trees looked like they were moving. Her heart raced, and she wanted to fly back to the safety of her nest. "I don't think I can stay here," Kiri said, her voice trembling. "It's too dark, and I'm scared." Nutty looked at her with kind eyes. "Kiri, you're stronger than you think. You've already come this far. The dark may seem scary, but it's only because we don't understand it. We can't be afraid of something we don't know." Kiri looked at Nutty and saw the confidence in his eyes. He wasn't afraid of the dark. Maybe she could find the courage to face it too. Taking a deep breath, she fluttered her wings and tried to calm her racing heart. Double quotes. "Okay," Kiri said, though her voice still shook. "I'll try." The two friends stayed by the Silver Lake for a little while longer. As Carrie began to relax, she noticed something wonderful. The darkness wasn't as scary as she had thought. The stars twinkled in the sky, and the soft moonlight bathed the forest in a peaceful glow. The sounds of the night, like the rustling leaves and distant calls, seemed less frightening. After some time, Nutty suggested they fly back home. Carrie felt proud of herself for staying in the dark as long as she had. As they flew back through the forest, Carrie realized that the darkness wasn't so bad. She could still see the trees, hear the night sounds, and feel the cool breeze on her wings. When they returned to the bright part of the forest, Carrie felt like a different bird. She had faced her fear and learned that the dark was not as scary as it seemed. With Nutty by her side, she knew she could face anything. From that day on, Carrie no longer feared the dark. She would fly through the forest at night with her friends, enjoying the cool air and the beautiful sights that only came when the sun went down. She learned that sometimes the things we fear the most are not as scary as we think, especially when we face them with courage and the support of good friends. And so Carrie became known as the brave little bird, not just for her cheerful songs, but for her courage to face her fears. She had learned that with a little bravery, anything was possible.